Watch me stretch some ingredients. So this is going to be my first food blog of the year. Definitely hope it's not the last. And so what I'm going to be doing is actually going through a whole recipe today. Um, and so what I'm going to do is mention how I'm going to create this one thing and use it multiple ways, even though you won't see all of that, but I'll explain as I go. Before I get into it, I want to say that my sister and I started a tradition. Literally, we just did it today, where we are going to get together every month and have tea. And today was our first tea. So I figured I'd start with a little bit of that. So um, here is the spread that I put out. We had it at my house today. We'll, maybe have it at her house the next time. We might even go to some tea houses. We'll see what happens. So my decor is blue and white, but I have several different tea sets. And so I'm actually using two here together because they both have green in them. I just thought it would be nice to kind of, set things up. And so I'll show you a little bit of what I have going on. I have the tea with like the ivy leaves. They have the picture with the matching cups and the saucers. Then I have another green set that's really meant for like green tea. I actually think you could even serve sake in this. That might be what it's for. But anyway, so that's kind of what we have. Let's look at a little bit more close up here of what I actually served. And so I have some cucumber and prosciutto sandwiches with, an herb cream cheese herb sauce. And so I actually used vegan cream cheese. My sister is lactose intolerant. My husband is lactose intolerant. They eat cheese all the time and regret it. So I just decided today to make it easy for everyone to just have either lactose free or plant-based dairy products for this meal. I serve it also with some pinwheels that I made. This is basically just ham and cheese. Of course, the cheese is plant-based, and then a tahini herb sauce that I make. And so that's what's in the little pinwheels. I've got some celery slices. My favorite pea chips are also there with some dip. My dip is my sweet miso herb sauce. So lots of different stuff here. I may share those recipes at some other point down the road, but this is just what I was putting out for tea. And then I have a little stack of gluten-free vanilla Oreos that will be for the dessert. So this is basically, tea is kind of like a lunch, and there's a dessert that goes with it. So just to kind of hone in, the green tea set that I have is the one I used for the dessert tea. I had a couple of options available. We decided to have a caffeine-free vanilla chai tea that day. So after we ate, had the hot tea ready to go, and we sweetened it with honey. In the pitcher, I actually served a herbal wild berry, not wild berry, mixed berry tea. And so we actually poured that into the teacups, which I know is not traditional, but it was just nice to drink out of the teacup. So we did have iced tea in the teacups. It was a wild berry. Why do I keep saying wild berry? It was a mixed berry tea. Along with the lunch that was being served. And that brings me to me and my sister. We didn't take any footage or anything like while we were just enjoying each other's company, but we did take a picture afterwards. So just wanted you guys to see that. All right, so I want to just kind of review some of the content that I've already shared. If you haven't seen it yet, there is a short for my dill salad chicken spread sandwich. And so I'll actually be posting a video for the dill salad chicken spread itself later, but I wanted to do a quick meal and show that in that short. So that short is available if you want to see that. And I'm just kind of like breezing through it here. And so yeah, I thought that was a fun little short to do. The next one, I believe, is yes, tea time. So tea time just I think it posted on Monday, and you guys are seeing this probably on Wednesday, unless you're in my Patreon group. So you can of course see that short as well, without it being like so super fast or whatever. So I just wanted to review that these is some of the food related content that I already put out there. So yeah, you can check out tea time as well. And so now I think, yes, we are ready to get into the recipe of the day. And so I am going to be preparing some meatballs. I know you're probably confused because I show a lot of like plant-based or vegan products on this channel that I've been showing so far. I haven't even been doing this that long, but so I'm not plant-based or vegan, but I do like to incorporate plant-based and vegan meals into my just regular repertoire. So some of my recipes will be like that, but I am also a meat eater, so I'm going to be creating a meatball recipe. And the whole thought process behind the things that I am creating and what I'm eating is I want my food to taste good, but I have limitations. I have to have a low acid, low fat diet. And there are other things that aren't necessarily high in acid, but they kind of triggered kind of the same results. And so that means for me, no tomatoes, no onion, no garlic, no chilies or like peppers. So I'm very limited on things that add flavor to my food, but I have worked diligently to figure out ways to incorporate that. And that was discovering how versatile vegetables really are. I don't think we give vegetables enough credit. And so I have learned to harness the power of vegetables. So right now I am preparing some carrots that are going to be used to help flavor the meatballs that I'm going to be making. And I know that sounds crazy, but just watch along and see what I do. Cue the music. And now it's time for celery. So here's something about celery. I always thought that celery was kind of flavorless, because it's always been served on like a veggie tray with some kind of dip. And it was just a conveyance to get the dip into my mouth. But since I've had, these health issues arise, and with my inquisitive mind trying to find ways to add flavor into my food, I have actually found that celery does have flavor, and depending upon how you're using it and preparing it, it can impart a lot of flavor. I always wondered why the mirepoix or holy trinity of cooking was so important, but there's a reason why celery is part of that. It has a very kind of peppery flavor to it, as well as some other things. So the carrot and the celery are getting rinsed right now, so that I can then use them. And I believe I'm going to be adding some oil to them. Let's just watch the video and see what happens. Alrighty, so I'm going to get the excess moisture off of the veggies. And now I'm just going to add a little bit, I believe. And come back in frame. A little bit of avocado oil, not too much. I don't need a whole lot for what I'm going to be doing. A little bit of black pepper, a little bit of salt. Not going overboard with this. I just want to basically just pull out the natural flavor of these vegetables, and salt and pepper will do that with a little bit of oil. Right, so that's parchment paper, and I'm gonna just lay the vegetables on the parchment paper. I believe the oven is already preheated for, yep, there we go, 350. And so I'm going to roast these vegetables for, let's see, how long is it? 15 or 20 minutes? I can't remember. 20 minutes. Yeah, that makes sense. So I'm just gonna roast these vegetables for 20 minutes and we'll see what happens next. So now I'm back to get my roasted vegetables. Okay, so I'm probably gonna just let these cool a little bit, and while they are cooling, yep, there's my food processor. Gonna be using that. Got another bowl. So let's see, what am I gonna be putting in this bowl? Right, so clearly something happened to my camera and I came back with some other ingredients that I needed. All right, so I'm taking out some utensils that I need as well. I am going to be using ground turkey meat because that's what I eat. It's okay if you eat beef, that's fine, but I eat ground turkey. All right, so I'm getting my food processor set up. And that's where the roasted vegetables are going into the food processor. I want to break these up. Normally when you make a meatball, oh, and we're going to be adding in our old-fashioned rolled oats. I think it's just half a cup. Normally when you make a meatball, if you want it to be a nice, flavorful, not dried out meatball, you'll add something like, you know, either chopped or grated onion, and then you'll put like some breadcrumbs in it. I am trying to control my carbs, my gluten, all that kind of stuff. And so I do have to kind of like pick and choose my battles when it comes to my breadcrumbs. I mean, not breadcrumbs. When it comes to my meatballs, I have chosen the gluten-free route. So I use the oats in place of breadcrumbs, and they've worked really well for me. And so because I can't use like the, you know, traditional onion in my meatball, that's why I do the roasted carrots and celery. When I originally tried this recipe with just carrots and celery, it was not good. I mean, it wasn't the worst thing I had ever eaten, but there was definitely something missing. The texture was just way off. It did not taste like I was biting into a meatball. It tasted like some meat with chunks of vegetable, and that's not what I was going for. So grinding them up in the food processor is very important. And then I also need to flavor it. So that is what I'm doing now. I'm picking out spices and things like that for the meatballs. Get me some measuring spoons going. All right, so this is dried rosemary. Whenever possible, I do like to do a mixture of fresh and dried rosemary, but you can totally get the same results with just the dried rosemary. When you do the two, like fresh versus dry, you do get more of like a layered effect with the flavoring, but just the dried is what I'm going to be using today. So now I'm going to be adding fish sauce. I'm actually going to be adding the fish sauce directly to the dried rosemary to kind of give the rosemary a little bit of time to like hydrate before it goes into the mixture with the ground meat. And why am I using fish sauce? Because a lot of times when people are making something like meatballs or maybe even a hamburger or something like that, something where they're using ground meat, or not even just ground meat in general, they will usually add Worcestershire sauce. If I said that wrong, I don't care. I'm not going to say it again, people. I can't eat that. But looking at the ingredients that make up that sauce that I am not going to say again, I was able to deduce that by using fish sauce and molasses in my recipes, it mimics that flavor. It sounds crazy. I don't understand the science behind it, or maybe it's magic, but it works. And there I am adding a whole egg. That's going to be kind of the binding for the meatball. That's very traditional. Again, I'm not, fully plant-based or vegan, so I eat eggs. But if you were going to create something like this and you were using a substitute like chickpeas or tofu or something like that, you could make maybe a flax egg or something like that. But that's not my concern right now. Adding my, herbs and stuff into the mixture. I always add a little bit of turmeric into my food whenever I can. Too much turmeric will take over a dish, so just be careful with that. But I just like it because it has a lot of really good health benefits. It's good for inflammation, and it actually goes well with the flavorings of this meatball once it's all put together. So I always put a little bit of turmeric in it, and I already have added salt and pepper, so it's always good to have pepper with turmeric. I don't know exactly the science. People debate about whether it helps with the absorption or the processing of whatever. They're just a good pairing. So the chopped up vegetables and oats are going to go into that mixture. So right now I've got the ground turkey, I've got the oats, vegetables, egg, and seasonings, mixing them in. Let's see what else. If I remember correctly, I'm going to stop using this spatula in a moment because it's not really getting the job done. Yep. And there's the trusty wooden spoon. I don't even know why I started with that. I always use a wooden spoon. And here's a little pro tip for those of you who are like, oh, you're mixing it too much. If I was using ground beef, I would be mixing it too much. But because I'm using turkey, I am not mixing it too much. Plus, once I'm finished mixing it, it is going to chill in the refrigerator. So that was the combination of the rosemary and the fish sauce being added to it. So I think everything has been added except for the molasses. Let's see. Yep, here comes molasses, if I can get it open. There we go. Ta-da! Molasses. And I'm basically doing about a tablespoon, but I'm using a teaspoon measure, so about 3 of those. I usually do measure things out more precisely, but I wanted to record this video and I didn't really prepare ahead of time, and I should have, but I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go with it. This is me in the wild. This is me candid. This is what I do. All right, so I'm gonna finish mixing this together, and I believe this is gonna be ready to go in the refrigerator to chill for 30 minutes. But let's see, there might be something else I need to add right at the end, and I just don't remember right now. All right, so yeah, going into chill for 30 minutes at least. Could be longer, but at least 30 minutes. All right, so I am back. I've got a foil lined pan with some parchment on top of it. I am removing my little wristband and my ring because I am going to be using my hands for this. I have a tablespoon measure, and so I'm going to be using that to kind of measure out the meatballs. This would be, probably better with like cookie scoop or a melon ball or something like that, which I did order one. I just didn't have it by the time I shot this video. So I'm doing it old school, people. We're probably gonna speed through some of this just because I am gonna be rolling out all of these meatballs. All right, so I think I'm getting to the point where I'm done rolling the first batch. I do end up having to do 2 batches because I'm using such a small pan. I have no idea why I'm using such a small pan. I usually have this like extra long cookie sheet where I put all of the meatballs on there at once. But again, who knows what was happening that day that I was trying to do this. I was like, yeah, so this is the first batch. There will be another. So again, we're already preheated at 350, and I feel like I'm forgetting something. Oh yeah. So I do want to spray this with a little bit of oil because I am using a fairly lean ground turkey. I do have to add a little bit of fat to it in the form of oil, and that was olive oil cooking spray, not just regular vegetable oil. Nothing wrong with that, but that's what I use. All right, so by this time I've done both batches. So this is the second batch that's coming out. I had to skip through some of the footage. And so that's why it looks like it's really, dark on there. And so these meatballs are gonna be used for several dishes. For now, I'm just gonna kind of set them aside. My husband and I have this thing where I prepare stuff ahead of time because I work late. He comes home and throws it together into a meal, and then we eat together. And so I'm preparing the stuff that he's going to be throwing together later. But like I said, these meatballs are going to be used in several meals, but we'll get to that in a moment. So for right now, I'm just going to put the lid on these, stick them in the fridge, and let's see what comes next. All right, so now it is time to create what these, at least some of these meatballs are gonna be going into. And I'm gonna start with avocado oil again. I mostly cook with avocado oil, that sounded weird. I do use olive oil, as you can see, like in the spray. I will use olive oil if I'm making like a salad dressing or something like that, because I'm not gonna be cooking with it. I do sometimes cook with coconut oil, although some people say it's bad. I don't care. I use that sometimes as a substitute for butter. I know there's vegan butter out there. I've not had the best experience with the vegan butter, so that's why I have multiple choices available to me. And I, on the rare occasion, will use actual butter, but in extremely small quantities. But for today, I'm just going to be cooking these mushrooms in the avocado oil. And this is gonna be a process. It's gonna take some time to get all of these mushrooms kind of cooked down the way that I want. I'm going to be making mushroom gravy. So that's what's happening here, people. You guys see me in the background getting some sauce out for something else? Yeah, I'm always thinking ahead. I have to. I make 85% of the food that I consume, maybe more than that. So I always have to be thinking ahead. It was really tough getting used to that, but it's my reality now. So yeah. Mushrooms are coming along pretty good. you're basically cooking all of the moisture out of the mushrooms because they release more moisture than you might realize. And so that's what I want to make sure I'm doing, is cooking out that moisture before moving on to what comes next. Let's see what happens. So here, what I did was initially when I was cooking the mushrooms, I used 1 tablespoon of the avocado oil. So here I just added another tablespoon, and I added 2 tablespoons of oat flour. I am using oat flour in this so that the gravy is gluten-free. Now, I do want to clarify that I am not gluten sensitive. I don't have celiac. However, I do sometimes try to reduce my overall gluten intake only because of my digestive issues. If you have a perfectly good digestive system and your doctor's not telling you to cut gluten out of your diet, don't do that. I mean, listen to your doctors, but my doctor was saying just because of the digestive issues that I have, that it wouldn't hurt for me to reduce my gluten intake. She didn't tell me to stop eating it altogether, so I do still consume it, but anytime I can reduce it, I will. So instead of just using all-purpose flour to make a gravy now, I do use a gluten-free oat flour just for that purpose. So not eliminating the gluten in my life, but I am reducing it. And if I can do it in a tasty way, why not? And this is pretty tasty. And so what I'm doing now is just basically cooking down the flour that's on the mushrooms so that it doesn't taste like flour. And when I get ready to, add the other ingredient, it's gonna, thicken it up nicely. So this ingredient that I'm adding is just water, people. That's all it is. It's water. So normally when making gravy, you would use like some kind of broth or stock or something like that. And if I was making any other kind of gravy, I would do that. But I've really gotten into, harnessing the flavor of my vegetables, like I said. And so I found that I could make a really good, flavorful mushroom gravy that really intensifies that mushroom flavor just using water. I am at some point going to add some salt to this because if I was using a broth or a stock, there would be some sodium in that. And where I'm just using water, that will be lacking. And at this point, I haven't added any salt to the mushrooms. So I will add a little bit of salt and pepper to this to set it off. And at the very end, I do have one little secret ingredient that I'm going to add. I don't always have the secret ingredient available. The gravy is delicious without it, but I felt like adding it this time. And so I'm just going to continue slowly adding in the water to get the gravy at the consistency that I want. Plus, I know after I have jarred this gravy and refrigerated, it's going to thicken a little bit more. I've done this enough times to where I know where I need it to be to get the overall consistency that I want. And so here I am just continuing to cook and reduce this down to get the thickness that I want for this amazing mushroom gravy. All right, I feel like I should chime in just a little bit and explain that the reason why I'm agitating this so much is to make sure that that flour is fully incorporated and there's no like chunks of flour. So I just did a little taste test, and I remember it tasted just how I wanted it to taste. Like this mushroom gravy pretty much is done. I don't really need to do a whole lot more to it, but like I said, I do have a secret ingredient and I'm gonna add at the very end. I think I'm getting it now. Let's see. Yep. And so that is just some black truffle um, bits that I just add in at the very end. I've already taken it off the heat. I don't like to add the truffles while it's still cooking. And so that just gonna go in and just give it just an extra little oomph. The gravy is fine without it, but the extra oomph, why not? All right, and so I believe you guys are gonna get to see me jar this. Yeah. So I've made enough of this mushroom gravy for 3 different meals. Now, again, this is me cooking for me and my husband. If I was cooking this for more people, it would not last 3 meals. It might last 2 at the most. But this mushroom gravy is gonna be the star of the dinner that I'm making with those meatballs. But then I'll have 2 more servings to use another night that we want to have mushroom gravy. We could have mushroom gravy with meatballs again, or maybe we'll have burgers and put mushroom gravy on the burgers with like some Swiss cheese or something. I don't know. But I always try, if I can, if I have the time, the means, resources, things like that, I'll make more than what I need just so I can have it later, to save me from having to cook so much, because I cook every single day, whether I want to or not. But cooking 1 or 2 things every single day is a lot less stressful than trying to cook 4 or 5 things every single day. And bulk cooking like this helps me accomplish that. So I have mushroom gravy for our dinner that night, and then 2 more servings for any other times that we want to have mushroom gravy. All right. All right, so the one with the metal lid, we'll probably have it tonight. All 3 of these are going to go in the refrigerator to chill, but the other 2, once they've chilled, will then move into the freezer. And this is what we're going to be serving with that amazing meal. All right, so what did I actually end up making? Well, here's a picture. I didn't what am I trying to say? I didn't of my husband doesn't record himself cooking, so he didn't record him throwing it all together. But basically the mixed vegetables that I showed right at the end, he just heated those up with some salt and pepper. He used coconut oil on those. He just likes the way that cooks on that. And then this is a picture of the mushroom gravy on the meatballs. And so this was a really delicious, hearty meal. And but those meatballs were I made so many of them that we had meatball subs another day. I used plant-based cheese on mine. He used regular cheese on his, and he's the one who's lactose intolerant. But anyway, so you can see how me making those meatballs already was 2 meals for us. And so anyway, that's what those meatballs actually ended up being 3 meals. So we had the meatballs and mushroom gravy one night, we had the meatball subs another night, and then I was able to have a couple of leftover meatballs to have for my lunch. And I actually put my barbecue sauce on them and just had like meatballs and barbecue sauce along with, a little side salad. It was nice. So yeah, that is what I had for what is the month of January. This is my food vlog. I hope you guys enjoyed it. What is your favorite meatball dish? I'd love to know. I pretty much keep the meatballs and gravy in like regular rotation, but I also will do like meatballs in like a marinara sauce with noodles. Obviously, I do the meatball subs. I don't do the barbecue meatballs as much as I think I should. I think I'm gonna maybe put that into the rotation, but I would love to know what your favorite meatball dish is. Do you eat a traditional meatball? Like, do you use ground turkey, or maybe you use ground beef? Or are you using something plant-based? I have made, I guess, a faux meatball out of like chickpeas before. It was really good. So yeah, I'm just curious to know what you guys thought of this. I'm still new to this whole process of like recording me doing like food-based stuff. So I don't know if this is any good, so I'd love your feedback to let me know. Am I wasting you guys' time? Regardless, a lot of my recipes are going to be in the book. I wish I could eat that, which I was hoping to release this year, but it's looking more like something that's going to be at the either end of the year or next year. But I'm just going to be sharing that process along the way, thus the food vlog and the other content that I'm doing. So, yeah, I'd love to know, what your favorite meatball dish is. I noticed that I have, I think one or two new subscribers to the channel. So thank you guys for subscribing. I really appreciate you being here and I love your feedback. But until next time, guys, stay safe, be blessed. Hey, if you like what you see, subscribe to the channel, give it a like, and also leave me a comment. I would love that. Okay, bye.